So I think were most of you in the other room last time? Yes. Did we switch? Yes. There is justice in the world. Der hai, andher nahi hai. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll again run the session as a Q&A, if you will, and talk about what you have on your mind. So if you can just tell me where you're from, what district and state and what school you're from, and then your question, and we'll take it from there. So first question.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Vinod from JNU Pabrai, Rajasthan. So my question is that, before starting Dakshana, have you ever thought about any more programs in order to invest your money for welfare of our country?
So we've thought about a few different things, and in fact, one of the things I would say is that basically it will probably dovetail into some of the things that you may have an interest in. Is one of the things I had one of the startups I had tried to start. It was actually after Dakshana. It was in 2013, I think, and it was a startup that was called Gandhigiri.org. Can we put up the first slide? So the website Gandhigiri was focused, or the startup was focused on trying to fight corruption in India. And it failed. And there are many things I have done in terms of business and charity and so on that have failed. Every time things fail, I'm very happy, because I learn a few things. So Gandhigiri actually was interesting because I started in 2013. I already had 6 or 7 years of experience with Dakshana. I already had, you can say, probably something like, let's say, more than 25 years of experience in business. So I had a lot of experience, and I had a few people helping me, all part-time, but these people were extremely high quality and very capable. They are all still very good friends of mine, but each one of them is extremely talented. So all the ingredients you would need for something to succeed were there. We had money, we had good people, we had a good idea, I thought. We even had a good name, and we even got the URL, gandhigiri.org. Nobody had that. And so we were able to get that domain. How many of you have seen the movie Lage Raho Munna Bhai? कुछ 2-4 जनों ने मूवी देखी हुई है. Good. So we took the name of the organization from the movie. Do you remember the movie? Yes. And Gandhigiri. In fact, I thought I also got another URL, lageraho.org. So I thought या तो lageraho.org बना देंगे या gandhigiri.org बना देंगे. And because we were going to fight corruption, and because we were going to fight it in a manner that would upset a lot of people, and these people possibly would even try to kill us. Okay, so what we did was, when we started the organization, all of us had a fake name. Like one guy's name was Munna at gandhigiri.org. I will not tell you who he is. Just his name was Munna. Another one was Circuit. So ऐसे काफ़ी different नाम थे. मैंने अपने आप को नाम दे दिया बापू. So I was Bapu at gandhigiri.org. So we had all these names. I don't even remember who was who now. And so there's a website which is called I Paid a Bribe, ipaidabribe.org. Have you heard of the website? कभी किसी ने सुना नहीं है. So ये जेई और नीट के बाद, अभी आप डिस्ट्रैक्ट मत होना, but जेई और नीट के बाद you go to the website ipaidabribe.org. The idea of the website is that when you encounter a corrupt government official and that corrupt government official asks for a bribe and you pay the bribe, you then go on the website and give the details that such and such police officer in such and such district took such and such bribe for me for this and this, okay? And in that website, they have tens of thousands of such reports with all the details of who took how much bribe. And their idea was that basically, if you create transparency, I mean, if there is some Yogendra Singh police officer who is corrupt and his name is coming on the website, he may get into trouble, right? Especially if repeatedly it's happening. And that website, I Paid a Bribe, also has a section which says, I dealt with an honest government official. So you can also give stories of situations where some government official did their job properly. Both ways. You can talk about the bribe. Gandhigiri was focused on a little bit different. We were focused on two things. One is we wanted to leverage RTI. So RTI is a very powerful tool, but a lot of ordinary citizens do not understand how to use RTI. One of the most best laws passed, and it's a very strong law, and no government body can ignore it. I mean, they have to respond. And so if you frame the RTI queries properly, you can force the government to do a number of things. So one was to explain to people how to do RTI and to make it very easy for them to submit an RTI request. So that was one part of the thing. The other part was that now we all have smartphones and Geo and all these things. At that time there was no Geo, but still the phones were emerging. And it is very easy. Let's say I go to meet some government official and I know he is corrupt. I'll put a phone in my pocket with the camera pointed at him, turned on, with the recording turned on, right? It's very easy for me to, audio recording is really easy for me to get. I can keep the phone in my pocket and get a full audio recording of everything he's saying, right? But I can do a full video recording also. And video recording करके YouTube पे upload कर दो. So recording the video costs nothing, and putting it on YouTube also costs nothing. Both are free, right? And so Gandhigiri was focused on helping people understand that they can do this. And again, basically, once you guys may not have seen it, but once you go on the internet, you will see plenty of examples of things that happen in the government where people have evidence, hard evidence, that something wrong was done. And so once you start coming out with these types of tools, what happens is, if I am a corrupt government official, I am very scared. कि कोई भी आ सकता है, कुछ भी रिकॉर्ड कर सकता है, तो प्रॉब्लम हो गई है, राइट? पहले तो ऐसे कुछ नहीं था. So what happens is the nature of corruption changes. And the nature of corruption would change that what the government official originally, a corrupt government official will want to do is, almost every time he does some transaction with someone, he wants some bribe. But now he'll understand that if he keeps taking bribes, 20 bribes a day, he'll get caught very soon because somebody will do something like this. So he will change his modus operandi. What he'll say is, 100 लोगों को जाने दो, उनका काम कर दो, एक जिसमें थोड़ा श्योरिटी है कि कुछ हेरा फेरी नहीं है, उससे bribe ले लो. So take a large bribe from one person versus small bribes from 100 people. The approach would change. And that itself would help a lot of citizens, because it means that 99% of the time you will not encounter a bribe. And so this was the idea behind Gandhigiri. I don't even actually, when I was thinking I'm coming and talking to you, I don't even remember why we abandoned it. I think the team members got busy. We were facing issues with Dakshana on scaling. Dakshana, some of those scaling issues, actually we got Dakshana Valley, so some of those issues went away. And Gandhigiri kind of receded into the background. So the reason I'm telling you all this is, one day, one or more of you can resurrect Gandhigiri. What do you say? Yes, is it a good idea? Yes, so हम तो fail हो गए, शायद आप succeed हो जाओगे. So bottom line is, I think that Gandhigiri is a good example of something where it has applicability and has relevance globally to fight corruption. I think it becomes easier and easier. When we were thinking about it in 2013, we were thinking, okay, we can provide a smartphone and we can provide broadband and those sorts of things, so the person, even if they're very poor. But now with Geo and all that, and the amount in the last 5 years that costs have come down, you don't even need to provide that. All that is almost free. So actually the technology has moved in our direction and such. So bottom line is that I think Mother Teresa had a quote. She said, if you want to do something to improve the planet or help, start by helping one person. And start by helping a person right next to you. So you don't need too much kind of fancy anything. Can we go to the next slide? I just want to show you a couple of slides. So this was one of our report and incident things that we were trying to do. We created a little mock website just trying to do that. So we have a few screens, but I just pulled up 2 or 3. Let's see the next one. What do you say? हमने मुन्ना बना दिया. We got up. There's a website called Upwork. At that time it was called Elance. I think I paid some artist like $25, and I told him, make me because we would put all these kind of avatars throughout the website to do different things. That's it. You can shut it. So thank you for the question. Next question.
I'm Shruti Soni from JNV Jhalawar, Rajasthan. My question is, how did you start your first business from a little point and spread it on such a huge level? And how you established such a big network of contact all over the world, and how you manage it? Thank you.
Well, I think in many ways it is like you can think about a human baby. So baby is born. Day one, it can't walk, and it can't run. It can't do many things. But 6 months, it's crawling, and 1 year it's walking, and another 4 or 5 years it's running, and so on. So, you cannot run before you walk, and you cannot walk before you crawl, right? So there's a sequence that you follow, and I think a business follows the same trajectory in the sense that we start off with something very basic, right? Because we don't know a whole lot. Most of the time when you start, I would say even when we were looking at Gandhigiri, we knew that there are many things we're going to encounter which will be different than what we thought. And so we'll have to change things. And also it's a much smaller team. As you start expanding, it gets some traction, more people come in. Continuously our business is going to face more and more issues. And it's exactly like like a baby is. I mean, there was a point in time in Dakshana where I was the only guy involved, right? And then it became two people, and everything had to be dealt with between the two people, and then it gradually grew from there. So, for example, I think that in 2007, when we started, we did not have the ability or the even the mindset that we could do coaching on our own. At that time, the mindset was we will outsource it to one of the coaching providers, right? Because we are just trying to keep the model very simple because they're just a couple of people. And what ends up happening over time is you start learning more things, doing more things. So now, for example, at Dakshana, we have a lot of faculty members who are on our staff. They are full-time employees with us. And also we have some locations, we still have some locations which we have outsourced to other providers, like at Lucknow or Silvassa or Kottayam, etc. These are run by other, or let's say JNB Bundi, for example. Over time, more and more of those will end up being insourced, right? And more of those, not only will they end up being insourced, they will end up, we will have our alums in many cases who might be the faculty. And 2007, we couldn't have had an alum because, we were looking at 16-year-olds at that time. So basically, I think the way you look at a business is you start off with an idea. It's usually yourself, maybe one or two other people. Many ideas will fail, which is perfectly fine. It doesn't make any difference. I think like Gandhi, for example, everyone was volunteering that time. I don't know whether we even spent, I don't think Gandhi's expenditure would have crossed even 50,000 rupees or even 25,000 rupees. There was not much money spent on it. So most of the time, you will not need a lot of money. And even when things fail, it's not going to really affect you. And you can take it from there. And you keep building. It's the kind of, just like building blocks. You just keep building one step on top of the other. So as more team members come in and as more capability comes in, you can do more things. Yeah, so can you state your question?
Good morning, sir. I am Harsh Kumar from JNV Kathal, Haryana. Sir, what do you think that besides having so much intelligent students in so much areas and so much young population, India is lagging behind countries like USA and other developed countries?
That's actually a great question. And I was very happy when actually the thought of asking that question came up with you. So thank you very much for that. I'll use the board a little bit for this. And there's a guy named Adam Smith who lived about maybe 225 years ago or so. How many of you have heard of Adam Smith?
Sir, he fought against black people.
Okay, so Adam Smith was not from America. You're thinking of probably another Smith, maybe not Adam Smith, but Adam Smith is from, please have a seat. Adam Smith was a Scottish economist, and he wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. And this book is a very fundamental book. It's like, the book was written in 1776. 1776 is when Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations. In fact, the full title of the book is then An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. He tried to answer exactly the question you have asked. Why are some nations rich and why are some nations poor? And he answered that question. And India as a country would be a very rich country if we did only one thing, follow the book. एक किताब है जो बता रहा है कि how to make a country rich. 250 साल पहले, 242 years ago or something, that book was written. In fact, Bill Gates, I think, paid more than $10 million to buy the first edition of that book. So whenever you get a chance, you can read Wealth of Nations. You can buy it for less than 200 rupees. Anyone in Delhi in government can buy it for 200 rupees in any language. They don't have the time to read it, unfortunately. So what did Adam Smith say in this book, The Wealth of Nations, right? So let's say we have a place called Ratnagiri. Where is Ratnagiri? What is Ratnagiri famous for? Mangoes. Have you heard a story about mangoes? Just checking. We are not going to talk about that story. And then let's take a place called Saudi Arabia. Have you heard of it? All right. What is Saudi Arabia famous for? Pardon? Besides killing journalists, they are also famous for oil. All right, so what would happen if Saudi Arabia, so the people in Saudi Arabia, they love Ratnagiri mangoes. They love to eat Ratnagiri mangoes. What would happen if they said, हम रत्नागिरी से मैंगोज नहीं लेंगे, हम खुद अपने आम grow करेंगे? If Saudi Arabia decided, we are not going to import mangoes from Ratnagiri, we are going to grow mangoes in the middle of the desert. Okay, what will be the quality of those mangoes? They may not even be any mangoes. And what would happen if Ratnagiri decided, I am not going to send my money to Saudi Arabia to get oil. I am going to dig a hole right here and produce my own oil. Okay, what would happen? Will there be any oil? Okay, so what Adam Smith said is something very simple. He says Ratnagiri has a, so Adam Smith said there's a concept called comparative advantage. So comparative advantage means each group of people or each place should focus on doing things that they're really good at doing. Okay? Ratnagiri people should not be digging for oil, and Saudi Arabians should not be trying to grow mangoes, because both will fail if they try to do that. And what actually should happen is Saudi Arabia, to produce 1 liter of petrol, I think costs them around 10 rupees. 10 rupees a liter. How much is 1 liter of petrol? Pardon? 76. So for Saudi Arabia to produce the petrol is probably closer to 7 rupees. Okay, it's 7 rupees per liter. Okay, and what is the selling price? You said 70? 76 per liter. क्या ज़बरदस्त business है. Is Saudi Arabia rich? Why are they rich? जो 10 पैसे में मिल रहा है वो 1 रुपए में बेच रहे हैं. Right? Now, in Ratnagiri, great rainfall, they are able to produce great mangoes. Right? And they've been doing it for a long time. They're expert mango farmers. And same thing, they can send those mangoes all over the world. And the people in Ratnagiri will be well off when people around the world eat those mangoes. So all Adam Smith said was, do not put any wall in between these two people. Don't put any wall. Don't put any duty. Don't put any tariff. Don't put any tax. Okay? Let them freely exchange the goods. And both sides, so for example, if Saudi Arabia produces a lot of oil and is not able to sell the oil anywhere else in the world, will they be rich? What will they do? Eat the oil? It won't taste as good as a mango. Okay, so for them to do well, they have to sell the oil. And for Ratnagiri to do well, they have to sell the mangoes. Now, बहुत सिंपल फंडा है ना. आप तो इकोनॉमिस्ट भी नहीं हो, डॉक्टर और इंजीनियर्स हो, फिर भी फंडा समझ आ गया आपको. तो 240 साल पहले एडम स्मिथ ने ये कहा था. So now let's change the subject a little bit, and let's move from mangoes to sugar, okay, or sugar cane. How many of you are from farming families? Raise your hand. कुछ 2-4 किसान हैं रूम में. That's good. Okay. So we have a state, UP, and we have a country, Brazil. Okay? Both produce sugarcane. Okay? UP produces, anyone from UP? Anyone who is, family is in sugarcane farming? One. We have one. Pretty good. Don't hate me at the end of this. All right, so now what happens is Adam Smith had a concept called the invisible hand. There's this invisible hand concept he had which makes all these things work, like we saw with Ratnagiri mangoes and Saudi Arabian oil. Brazil is a country which is endowed with incredible resources to grow sugarcane very cheaply and in very high volumes. So let's say, for argument's sake, what's the price of sugar per kilogram in India? Pardon? 45? So let's say, for example, I'm just making these numbers up. Let's say Brazil produces sugar at 5 rupees per kg. Okay? And let's say the sugarcane from UP can be converted into sugar at 30 rupees per kg. For example, it's probably not that extreme, but clearly it is for sure Brazil is cheaper than UP in producing sugar. What should happen? If you want to create wealth, no barrier, which means what you say is, dear Brazil, send all the sugar you want to India. We love your sugar. We want your sugar, we'll take your sugar. Sugar price will drop from 35 or 40 to 15 rupees or 10 rupees. It'll drop a lot because Brazilian sugar will come in, right? India does not allow the import of Brazilian sugar. You cannot import Brazilian sugar. Why? Because the people in Delhi have not read Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations. Okay? So, or the UP government, they want to get re-elected. The moment they say there is no import duty on Brazilian sugar coming in and there's no restriction on the amount of Brazilian sugar coming in, that government will be out of power. It may not even wait till the next election. They may be out of power before the next election. They may even burn their house down. Okay? So, the correct thing to happen, and this is the most difficult thing to understand, the correct thing to happen here is do not put up a barrier, do not put up import duties, do not put up tariffs, do not put any restriction of any kind on the import or export of sugar either way. Let it go anywhere it wants to go. And what will happen is that if that were allowed, there may not be a sugar industry left in UP. All the sugarcane plantations in UP will be wiped out. And the reason they'll be wiped out is because the cost of producing it is too high. And so then what everyone says is, look at how many people are employed in producing sugar. All those people will lose their jobs, right? So we are never going to allow Brazilian sugar to come in. Well, if you don't, so what they are missing, the piece that is missing, is UP has competitive advantages, just like Ratnagiri has competitive advantages. That competitive advantage is not producing sugarcane. It is something else. I don't know what it is, but it is there. Every place in the world and every people in the world have something that they can produce, which is different from other places. So you have to let the invisible hand play itself out. Let it play itself out. So let's take, for example, the software industry in India, IT. आप में से शायद एक दो जने IT में काम करेंगे, right? So the IT industry, when it grew in India in the 80s and 90s, when it was early, when it was just started, no one in the government understood it. They had no understanding, there were no laws, there were no restrictions, there were no import duties, there were no export duties, services. They didn't understand the import, export of services. So the government stayed out of the software and IT business. And even today, the government has stayed out, right? So we actually had the invisible hand of Adam Smith play out in the software industry. And so what ended up happening? What ended up happening is India developed a huge software and IT industry, quite significant. And if I look at, let's say, the top 500 companies in the US, almost every single one of them is using IT companies in India. Airbus is using them, Boeing is using them, American Express is using them, Visa is using them, Caterpillar is using them. All these companies have contracts with Indian IT companies to help them do their work. Why is Coca-Cola based in Atlanta using some company in Bangalore to do their IT work? Why? Coca-Cola can go to some company in Atlanta to get the IT work done. Why is Coca-Cola coming to Bangalore instead of just working with the next door company in Atlanta? They're coming to Bangalore because Bangalore has an ability to provide that service at a better, cheaper, better format, right? The wages are lower in Bangalore than they are in Atlanta, and so the cost is lower. Lots of software technology people are available in India. The industry grew. And India got a competitive advantage. So when sugarcane is not being farmed in UP, and this we saw happen in Telangana, the Andhra and Telangana government, in the last 20-25 years, they opened a zillion engineering colleges. Every time I take a left turn or right turn in Hyderabad, there's a new engineering college. Okay? There must be hundreds of engineering colleges in Andhra, Telangana, loaded.
They don't want to go to IIT.
Right. So why are there so many engineering colleges there? Because the software industry is demanding it. IIT is not enough to feed the software industry. NITs are not enough. So all these engineering colleges got created. They all end up being hired by TCS or whoever else, and it's all feeding that whole engine. maybe what will happen in UP is the farmer's son will become an IT person because he cannot grow sugarcane anymore. Is it better to be an IT person or a sugarcane farmer? थोड़ा ज़्यादा पैसा मिलता है. Maybe more than thoda, you get a lot more money, right? So what would happen is that if you let the invisible hand play out, UP will adapt and adjust. And in that adaptation and adjustment, it will figure out what makes sense. And with that, India will grow. Now let me give you some other examples of why the country is poor. But it all goes back to Adam Smith and invisible hand. So we are in Pune, which is an industrial belt. There are a lot of manufacturing industry around us. And 3 days a week, there is no three-phase power. What are the days? Are they fixed days? What are the 3 days that there's no three-phase power? Is this fixed days? What days?
Monday, Thursday, Saturday.
Okay. So Monday, Thursday, Saturday, no three-phase power. If you don't have three-phase power, you cannot run, maybe you can run lights without three-phase power, but you cannot run industrial machinery. Okay? This is the industrial belt. Okay? Auto manufacturing takes place in Pune, right? So if I want Adam Smith invisible hand to play out, I have to allow the industry in Pune to produce everything they want to produce. I can't cut the power. If I cut the power in Bangalore, will Coca-Cola be able to use Infosys in Bangalore if there's no power? End of story, there will be no usage. IT business will shut down. So power is something fundamental. Power needs to be provided to every single industrial shop, every house, every place with no cut. And India should not have a problem providing power as much as needed. And the reason it should not have a power, so on one side we are cutting power 3 days a week, right? On the other side, let's look at the power situation in India. So to produce power, you need coal. India has massive coal reserves. One of the largest coal reserves in the world and one of the cheapest. So we have no problem with coal. Okay, then we go to power plants. India has more than enough power plants already existing today. So there should never be a power cut anywhere in the country. Okay? The power plants are sitting idle. Okay, so on one hand, you have power plants sitting idle, not working, and the other hand, you are not providing power. Okay, why are these two things happening? Why do we have a situation? So, someone asked me, I think I was in Kottayam, someone asked me, why don't you enter politics? Okay, someone asked me this question. I told them, since we talked about sugarcane, जब गन्ने का जूस बनता है गन्ने से, and you pass the ganna through the machine, it comes out in shreds. That would be my situation if I went into politics. Nothing will be left. Okay, I will just be shredded. Okay. The only thing I can do is I can be a benevolent dictator. So if you make me the emperor with unlimited powers, there'll be no power cut. And there'll be no idle plant. Both will get fixed. Okay? why will both get fixed? So let me explain the situation, and this will explain to you why we are so poor in India. So let's go up here. So basically, let's say, so here's what happens in power. We have coal, which goes to a power plant, which connects to the grid, which supplies electricity to a state electricity board, which provides the power, and let's separate it. It provides the power to industrial users, agricultural users, and residential users. Right? So basically the state electricity board is providing power to these three people. The industrial users have no votes. Nobody cares about their votes. They can't vote. It's a company. Company cannot vote, right? Individuals can vote, company cannot vote. Agriculture, lot of votes, right? So over here, it's costing this state electricity board, let's say, 3 rupees per unit to buy the power. And they have some costs, so for them to sell it, make some money, they can sell it for 3.5 rupees, 3 rupees 50 paisa. Because this is vote bank, the power is sold at 1 rupee per unit. Okay? It's sold below cost. Many times it is stolen and it's going for 0. Right? This one has no vote bank. इनको तो दबा के charge करो. 10 rupees per unit. In fact, 20 भी कर दो, कोई problem नहीं है. There's no voting allowed. And residential, ठीक है, you can charge them maybe 4 rupees per unit. Okay? Now, what happens is the state electricity board is getting paid by all these three. When you combine everything, they may be getting 2 rupees and 50 paisa per unit, all blended, for example, right? So they get a bill to pay from the power plant, and they collect over here and match nahi ho raha hai, right? So what they say is, power off कर दो. सीधी बात है, बंद कर दो. If you do not take any power from here and do not give any power over here, completely shut it off. Let's say there is no power in Pune, they cannot lose money, right? So this is a business where the more power they deliver, the worse their problem is. Okay? And because of all this stuff going on, 3 days you are giving no power. So I told you, for example, that Saudi Arabia produces oil at 7 rupees a liter. So let's say India in Pune is manufacturing cars. Okay, we have lower labor cost, which is an advantage. We have lower cost of land and other things. When other countries are manufacturing cars, their cost of power may be rupees 2 per unit. Okay, other countries when they are manufacturing cars, power usage is significant in car manufacturing. They may be at 2 rupees per unit, and they have no power cut. 7 days a week, 365 days a year, power is coming. So when I produce a car in Pune and I try to sell it outside India, can it be sold? No, it cannot be sold. It's too expensive. Why is it too expensive? Because first of all, you put up a plant 40% of the time, or almost half the time, the plant cannot run. And not only the plant cannot run, when you hire a person, So let's say I hire some auto manufacturing person. Let's say I'm paying him 20,000 rupees a month. The union does not care whether I'm using him for 4 days or 5 days or 6 days. They'll say you have to pay him 20,000, right? So the cost of the labor is there, whether or not the plant is being operated. So everything is going in reverse. And what is the end result? The end result is किसी ने Adam Smith की book नहीं पढ़ी है. Or so what would Mohnish do as the emperor of India? Just make me an emperor for 1 day. Okay? I'll get rid of all these guys and I'll take all this away. Everyone gets power at 4 rupees a unit. So let's say for example, this is changed. This is changed where I don't care who the user is. Everyone gets power at 4 rupees per unit. Okay? Will there be any power cut? No power cut. Okay? So now you cannot build a rich society without power. Is there any rich society without electricity anywhere in the world? No. It's a fundamental layer you need. You need power to do all that. So for example, one of the things you have to solve power. And to the credit of the Modi government, when they came in, they are very smart. They understand all these things really well. Okay, so what they did is, there was problems with coal, they fixed coal. There was a lot of coal scam, a lot of issues. All that has been fixed now in India. Unlimited coal is available. No problems. They built the power plants, unlimited power plants available. They put new, solar, everything is there. Now these plants are sitting idle. So there's another problem. You're not using the plants. This state electricity board is under state control, not under central government control. So the power of the central government ends over here. And this controls votes, right? You try to mess with this and you are finished. If you don't fix it, we remain poor. And if you fix it, you are out of power. You will no longer be running the government. So these are the sad realities of India. And this is why we can have any number of bright IITians, any number of bright doctors, any number of bright whatever you want. And this is just, I'm just bringing up one issue, power. If you gave me 2-3 days, I will give you 100 issues like this, right? And one after the other. So I'll give you one more issue just to get you excited, because you know, ऐसा है कि मेरे बस की बात नहीं है ये fix करने को. I'm going to leave it to you guys. Are you going to fix this? How are you going to fix it? How are you going to fix this? Think about it. Use your IIT brains. Find a way. Okay? Find a way to fix it. But let me give you another problem. Okay? And these problems I'm giving you are just tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds of these things. The power situation I showed you, one small thing. But if you fix power, it will have a huge impact on what happens in India. So the thing is, there is a lot of coal, not coal, there are a lot of iron ore reserves in Odisha. So Odisha has a lot of low quality iron ore reserves. The quality of these iron ore reserves is so poor that almost all iron and steel plants cannot use that reserve and actually make good steel. So it's just sitting there doing nothing, okay? So there's a Korean company called Posco. Posco has a technology called Fintex. What Fintex does is with the Fintex technology, they can use that low quality ore and produce high quality steel. So if Posco gets access to this, what happens is the cost of this is very low, but the selling price is high. It's kind of like Saudi oil. Okay? So Posco understood this. They looked around the whole world and they said, Odisha is perfect because the place where the reserves are sitting is not that far from the coast. So they can put port infrastructure and they can put up the plant and they can sell that steel all over the world. Okay? And it becomes just like Saudi oil, except it's in Odisha. And so Posco came to India and they said, we want to put $12 billion and build this plant. They were going to invest 85,000 crores to build the plant, and then every year they would have, maybe 20,000 crores coming into Odisha. Fantastic, right? So Posco made this proposal, this $12 billion, 85,000 crores, largest single private investment into India ever in the history of the country, if it had happened. Okay? So Posco proposed this 15 years ago to the government. Central government said, wonderful, please come. Okay? And after 15 years of breaking their head and 3 of their employees getting killed, Posco left India. No plant got built. So why was the plant not built? So multitude of factors. First factor was Posco needed about 6,000 acres of land, and all the land they needed, which is where the iron ore reserves were, is all owned by the government. So the government said, right in the beginning, no problem, we own the land, you don't need to acquire from anyone, we'll give you the land. And you can do the mining, you can do everything, you can do that. But on that land, there were illegal beetle leaf farmers. So these farmers were farming this land. It did not belong to them. And their livelihood was coming from that land. अभी पॉस्को को इतना बेनिफिट मिल रहा है तो पॉस्को ने बोला कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. We will treat the land as owned by the farmers. We will pay them for the land and we'll give proper compensation, we'll buy the land. Even though it's being given by the government for free, we'll still buy it. So all those families that are farming, they will get money from us. Then the activists said that is not enough. Because after you buy the land from them, what will these people do? So then Posco was told, from every family you employ one person. Posco agreed to that also. They said, okay, we'll buy the land, and every family in that area, at least one person from that family will get employed by us. They even agreed to that because, again, the benefit was so big over here. They said, wo bhi kar denge. Then there were environmental objections raised. And there were a lot of agitation, there were a lot of protests in front of their office. There were some fire, the homes were burnt of some of the employees, and 2 or 3 people of Korean descent who came here to do this were killed. Okay? After all this happened, after 15 years, Posco said, thank you. We are leaving. Okay? They left, and that iron ore is still sitting there. because they are the only company that has the ability to use that. So you cannot have Tisco or Vedanta or anyone else come and do that. They don't know how to do that. Okay? So what would have happened if the exact same situation occurred in Saudi Arabia? They have some iron ore reserves. Someone wants to come and build a plant. In 5 minutes, the king will say, okay. Right? And anyone has any objections, in another 5 minutes, the king will imprison all of them. Okay? Never to be heard from again. Okay? The plant will get built. And the country will get rich. So the thing is, you have decisions to make. Do you want the country to get rich? Or do you want to make sure every single constituency is happy? Okay? If you focus on making every single constituency happy, first of all, everyone will not be happy, even if you try. Okay? And you are bound to not get rich. Okay, so in a place like Odisha, this would have been perfect. It's an underdeveloped place. Everything about it, you would have had a great port, you'd have all sorts of things would have happened. It did not happen. So I showed you the power situation. Odisha, I can go on and on. There are hundreds and hundreds of cases. I talked to you about UP sugarcane. Okay? It is terrible. It is so easy to make India rich. So easy. But yet so difficult. So we will carry on. Next question.
Myself, Siddharaj Walke from JNU Belgaum, Karnataka. Sir, my question is, if your bank balance went zero, what would be your first action?
Okay, these are great questions. Let's have some tea first. Cheers. I will use your table. Is it okay? All right. Okay, so देखो ऐसा है. Please have a seat. First thing is you have to remember what Buddha said. What did Buddha say? Buddha said, there is no suffering in this world. Okay? Are any of you suffering? कोई stress है? Tension है? Does anyone have any tension or stress? Raise your hand. सब जेई के लिए तैयार? No problem. Okay. So anyway, Buddha said that there is no suffering in this world. Okay? Humans suffer when they react to events. Okay? So what I mean by what Buddha meant by that is, he said that, I mean, let's take the example of a dog. Okay? Let's say the dog has cancer. And let's say the dog is going to die in 1 month. Okay? But the dog doesn't know he has cancer. And let's say we give the dog some morphine or something, he has no pain. Is the dog suffering? No. Is the dog have any issues because they have cancer? No, no issues. And then one day just dies, moves on. Life was fine. Now, let's say a human being has cancer. Okay, and he goes to a doctor, doctor tells him, 30 days you're going to be dead. I'm so sorry. Okay? Is the human being suffering? उसको morphine दे दिया है ना, कोई problem तो नहीं है. He's been given morphine. No pain and suffering. He can go on vacation for a month. Okay? So why is a human being suffering? Because he or she is thinking about the date that this is going to happen. But Buddha said, if you don't think about that event, right now, in this moment, you have no suffering. And then 1 second from now, you also have no suffering. And 2 seconds from now, also you have no suffering. You suffer because you start thinking about various things. So now the good news is he didn't tell me I got cancer. He only said the money is gone. Right? which is pretty good. Thank you, man. It's great. So there's a saying, wealth is lost, nothing is lost. Health is lost, something is lost. Character is lost, everything is lost. So actually, I didn't go to zero, but in 2009, we had a financial crisis in the US, and our net worth dropped like more than 70%. So I used to have, I still have this formula where what I had said is that once we have more than, let's say, 250 crores, we'll give 2% of that to Dakshana every year, right? We're using a formula. And basically, so in this happened in 2007, went over 250 crores, pulled out 5 crores, Dakshana got started. Okay, and then pulling out 2% every year. Then in 2009, we had the financial crisis, and the money left at that time was less than 100 crores. So basically the formula was above 250 crores to give 2%, below 250 crores to give 0. That was the plan. So I said, ये तो गलत तरीके से जा रहा है. This is the problem. So I said, we can't continue Dakshana, right? And so I contacted, उस time पे there was no Dakshana Valley, so I contacted Navodaya. The people at Navodaya said, look, we have a problem. There is a financial crisis, there's a change in circumstances, all this stuff. I think what we have to do is I will carry the batch we have till they finish, till they take the test. But we will not take the next batch, okay? Because the money is not coming in, right? So the Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, they understood the problem, unlike the state electricity boards, who do not understand these problems. So they said, don't end the program. Just reduce the scope so it keeps going. Because there's a precedence, the government works by precedence. So they said, you take it down to one center, but run. So what we did in 2009, we only took kids in Bangalore, and we only took 50 kids. So that year, we only took 50 kids, right? And then this gradually recovered and went up. And 2010, we did a normal batch. And we were back again. Happy days were here again. Okay? And so we didn't go completely to zero. But let's take the situation. So, you know, what happened, like, for example, my family used to live in what is now Pakistan. You know, my father's side of the family used to be in Pakistan, in Lahore, etc. And then suddenly, in 1947, they had to leave in a hurry, okay? And they ended up coming to India as refugees, lost everything. They had homes, factories, all kinds of things, lost everything. They barely escaped with their clothes on their back. And they became refugees, and the government sent them to Odisha. Somehow Odisha keeps coming up. So they were sent to Odisha, and they were put into a refugee camp. And first day, my grandfather was in this refugee camp. They said, please come and have your food, right? So there's a line and there's some food so he goes to the guy running the camp. He said, listen, there's no way I can ever live as a refugee. I can't just sit here eating 3 meals a day and doing nothing. So he says, I'll give you an idea. He tells the guy running the camp. He said, whatever you're going to spend on my family for 3 months to feed us, just give me the cash right now. And I'll try to start some business. And with that, we will no longer be a burden on you. We'll try to do something and we'll figure it out. And amazingly, they listened to him. And they gave him some amount of money. He started some wood workshop and went from there. So there are members of my family that went to zero, right? And then they came back. So I think that, yeah, definitely if wealth goes to zero, it will affect me, but I hope it doesn't affect me for very long. So what I will try to do then is, I'll try to figure out what is the best way I can come back, what is the best way I can insulate Dakshana as much as possible. So one of the good things about Dakshana is that we have a finite number of kids for a finite period of time. Our real obligation is to make sure all of you get to the finish line. We don't have an obligation necessarily to take the next batch, right? So let's say if there's absolutely no money, Dakshana Valley is all paid for. There's no loan or anything on it. So the valley will, unless there's an earthquake or something, this thing will stay. We may have to find somebody else to fund or something else. But also what we've also done with Dakshana is that we've been, over the years, adding a lot of money to Dakshana. And I think currently, I think Dakshana Valley is an asset that is probably worth over 70 crores, is what we spent, is probably worth more than that. We probably have close to 60, 70 crores in the bank. So we have that as a cushion. So there are a few cushions which are outside of directly what's happening with me, which was not the case in 2009. In 2009, Dakshana was too new, it didn't have anything. But bottom line is that if you take away all my wealth, I will try to remember Buddha, and I will try not to suffer, and I'll try to figure out a way to come back. I'll try to think about the way my grandfather did it, right? And take it from there. So, next question.
Good morning, sir. I am Rahul Verma from JNV Kota, Rajasthan. Sir, my question is, at what stage of your life did you become happy with your success?
Well, I think that, you know, success is not a summit or a peak. I mean, anything we do or anything we achieve, we can always do more. So I tend not to look so much at what has happened. I try to focus on what may be possible. Okay, just look ahead rather than look behind. And so, just like the Buddha said that there is no suffering in the world, the second is that our happiness should not be a function of our success. We should try to be happy all the time. I mean, that should be the goal, is you should not be saying if or when I get a job or when I may have a business or when I have 3 sons or whatever else, I'll be happy. If you take that approach, you'll never be happy. You have to be happy today, here and now, no matter what is going on. So I don't look at it from a success equals happiness point of view. And what I think about is that, you know, I like to play games, and in many ways Dakshana is a game. My take is, you know, where can we take this game? What can we do with it? How far can it go? And those are interesting questions, and that's what we try to do. So, next question.
Good morning, sir. I'm Sangeeta Kumari from JNV Dhanbad, Jharkhand. So my question is, I want to know from you that how does a business works and what are the genuine problems that you face in your life, and it will be a matter of great pleasure as well as excitement to hear the real-time experience from you.
So people think of many things when they think about business or think about business people. One of the things they think about is that business people take risk and therefore they get reward, right? You try to do something, you open some shop, you do something, and that may work or may not work, and if it works then you get some success and so on. That's actually the wrong way to think about business. So the correct way to think about business is that almost all businesses, to start them takes almost no risk. And one of the ways you can make a business risk-free is to, what I would say is walk and chew gum at the same time. So what I mean by that is that, you know, how many hours are there in a week? Just raise your hand. 168. So 168 hours in a week, right? And how many hours are you expected to work when you get a job per week? How many hours per day? Raise your hand. Someone can raise their hand. How many hours are you expected to work? So you're expected to work 8 hours, and typically it's 5 days, it's 40 hours, right? And so if you take out the working hours, you're left with 128 hours. Let's say you live close to work, you don't have a lot of commuting time. Maybe you take out another 5 hours for commuting, let's say 123. Let's say you are sleeping 8 hours or something per day. So you take out another, let's say 60 hours. So you have 63 hours. Then you take out some sleeping and not eating and taking baths and stuff. You will still be left with more than 40 hours. Right? And so basically when you take a job, you actually have enough time to do a second job, if you choose to. And what you can do with these 40 hours is you can use this to start a business. And you can start that business while you still have your job. Somebody is paying your rent, somebody is paying all your expenses. Don't shut that off. Do both at the same time. Like for example, when we did Gandhigiri, every person on the team had something else they were doing. So it wasn't like if something happened to Gandhigiri, any of them were affected. They already were doing other things, so it didn't make any difference. So the first thing is that you can start a business, and you should start a business when you are working at a job. And that's what I did. My first business, so if I go back, my first business was a company called Perry Technologies. I was 22 years old. It was like a software tools company, and it failed. And there were 3 of us who were trying to get this company going. All of us had jobs, we were doing other things. I think we tried to work on things for about 5-6 months, and then it just fizzled out. And there was hardly any money spent, because this was kind of software tools and stuff. We didn't really need any money. And we still had our job, so it made no difference, right? So this failed. This was in, let's say, 1987. Then in 1990, I started another business called Transtech. And I was working at the time. And by 1991, let's say February, I had 3 clients, and there was a lot of decent amount of revenue coming in, and I quit my job. Okay, and then Transtech worked. It went and scaled, and it did well. So I could have done almost an infinite number of attempts till a business worked, because each attempt was not costing me anything. It was a very small amount of cost. And one of the things I did when I started Transtech is that when I had the idea, I decided I'm no longer going to try to get high ratings for my employer or be a top performing employee or any of that. I just said, I just want to make sure they don't fire me. They don't get rid of me, okay? So I took my performance down, so all the effort went into the business and very limited effort went into the job. And so when I resigned my position in 91 and I met my boss and his boss, they said, you know, Mohnish, for last 1 year we could not figure out, your performance went down a lot. You know, before that you were doing well, but then it went down. I said, yeah, because I was trying to get this business going. And I was just trying to make sure I did enough so you guys didn't fire me. So they said, yeah, you know, we talked about it and we said, it's not so bad that we want to fire him, but we are not getting the same output. So they said, we just were watching, kya ho raha hai, dekhte hain. So I said, that's exactly what I wanted, that you get confused, you don't fire me, and then in the meantime I can leave, right? And so, so it works. So now, why did Transtech work? Okay, so basically what happens is, and you know, probably very similar to Dakshana and probably even very similar to Gandhi, is let's say there's a town A and let's say there's a town B. And let's say the distance between these towns is 10 kilometers. Okay? And let's say there's a barber over here who cuts hair, and there's a barber over here who cuts hair. Okay? There's been some economic development and there's a new town emerging in the middle, let's call it town C. And this barber notices that sometimes there are people coming from here to get a haircut because that new town has no barber. It's a brand new area that's just being developed. And soon he is seeing that more and more people are coming here to get a haircut. So in this barber shop, there is an employee who is employed by the barber shop owner. So this employee says, you know, what I will do is, I want to have my own barber shop. Instead of just being an employee, I want to have my own barber shop. So what he says is, I'll buy some used equipment and open a very small barber shop over here in town C, and I'll only keep it open for 2 days a week. So 5 days a week I'll work here on my job, getting paid, and 2 days a week I'll do over here, and whoever is coming from here, I'll tell them, Saturday, Sunday, udhar aa jao, main udhar kaam kar raha hu. Now over time, he starts getting more and more clients over here. He increases it to 3 days, he increases to 4 days, and finally he tells his boss, I've resigned. Okay, and now in the meantime this town has grown and he is the first barber in the town. So did he take any risk? No risk. And did he get a business started? So to answer your question, this is how we start businesses without taking any risk. And so what all of you have to do is, you know, you finish at IIT or NEET with medical, wherever, and if you want to be your own boss, keep doing the job and keep doing one startup after another. Like I told my daughter that by the time she does her 4th or 5th startup, it will work. The first 4 will fail. It's okay. But each one of them will teach you something. So that's how we do that. Next question.
Myself, Abhishek Sharma from JNV Kangra, Himachal Pradesh. Sir, the interest of me and my parents do not match. So whenever I try to conversate with them, I end up in fights and blaming them. Sir, being a learned person yourself, I would like to ask you that how can I establish a good relationship with my parents?
Okay, very good question. कभी किसी की parents के साथ अनबन हुई है? Raise your hand if you ever disagreed with your parents or anything. No one has disagreed. Come on, raise your hands. all of you have disagreed. You may not tell them, but in your mind you disagree. How many of you have disagreed in your mind with your parents? Some more hands are going up. So, anytime two people are interacting, they are not going to see things the same way. If you and I are talking, we may have different ideas. And in the case of your parents, there's a hierarchical relationship. Master-slave. Hierarchy is there. And not only in the Indian context, but I would say in a global context, the parents are thinking, obviously I'm right, and obviously you are wrong. Listen to me. And because I'm elder to you, you need to respect me. So I am right, you're going to listen to me, you're going to respect me, etc., etc. ऐसे ही कुछ है ना, यही प्रॉब्लम है ना, इसमें कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. So there's a American philosopher, and actually one of the founding fathers of the US. His name was Ben Franklin. Have you heard of Ben Franklin? Last time तो आपने Adam Smith को American बना दिया था, from Scottish. Who is Ben Franklin? Raise your hand. So Ben Franklin was one of the founding fathers of the US, and actually he convinced the French government to help defeat the English so the United States actually could be formed. Very wise man. So he has many interesting quotes. Like he says that after 3 days, fish and guests both stink. After 3 days. You know, कोई मेहमान आ जाते हैं ना बहुत टाइम के लिए, 3 दिन के बाद बस बहुत हो गया. Okay? So another one of his quotes is that if you would convince focus on interest, not on reason. So, the problem you are having is from a rational, logical perspective, what you are telling your parents is correct. But that doesn't mean anything. Because they are not going to accept your point of view, even if they know it is correct. They will not accept it. Why will they not accept it? Because it is not in their interest. So, when I'm saying if you would convince, focus on interest, not on reason, what I mean by that is, if I'm having a conversation with, let's say I go to buy a car, okay? And in the US, the car dealers are crooks, okay? Especially if I go to buy a used car. वो सब बाहर से चमका कर अंदर सब जंग लगा हुआ है, ओके? जल्दी से बेच के दे रहे हैं, right? So, if I talk to the car dealer, is this a good car? Yes, sir, very good car. Is it going to give me problem? No, it's never going to give you problem. Full guarantee, I am here, okay, etc., right? So I cannot really get proper kind of, I would say, responses from the car dealer till I get to his interest. Okay, so let's say, for example, I'm able to convince the car dealer that, listen, if in next 12 months I have any repair, you are paying for it, for example, right? Now we have switched the conversation to interest, right? Because now he'll be thinking, नहीं नहीं आप ये गाड़ी मत लीजिए, आप ये ले लीजिए, ये किसी और को दे देंगे, you know, that sort of thing. So what I'm saying is that there are two things that will probably be liberating to you. Number one, do not expect your parents to agree with you because it makes sense. Are you expecting someone to agree with you because you make sense? No. You cannot expect that. Humans are stupid. Okay? Humans are twisted. Okay? Not just your parents. Your parents actually are good humans. The rest of them are even worse. So basically, if you want to make headway with humans, you have to focus on interest. And once you understand that, the important thing that happens is, so you have to go back to Buddha. So let's say, for example, let's say a father and son are having a conversation. The father tells the son, become an engineer, get a job, make money. Okay, to the father that makes sense. The son is a poet. Okay, he just wants to write poetry. Okay, so he says to the father, no, I have no interest in engineering. I want to be a poet. Okay, that conversation is not going to go anywhere. Okay, because the son is never going to convince the father, and the father is never going to convince the son. So he has an interest in poetry, this guy is saying engineering, both seem to think they are correct, etc., etc. So what does the poet son do? It's really simple. The poet son becomes a poet, but learns to handle the father diplomatically. Don't have an argument. You can't win the argument because it's not based on reason. So ऊपर से कह दो हाँ, अंदर से जो करना है करते रहो. Eventually things will work out, but you're not going to be able. What I'm saying is that the frustration you have is you're trying to get someone else to move to your point of view, and people are not going to move to your point of view. I mean, let's say I go to the state electricity board. I say, listen, do you agree India should be a rich country? Yes, sir, absolutely we agree India should be a rich country. Can we please charge everyone the same for electricity? No, sir, we cannot do that. Okay, that's the way it is. The only way I can convince the state electricity board is if I find a way to get to their interest. Okay, so what the Modi government did, they looked at this problem and they're really upset about the electricity situation. Because if you don't have electricity, you don't have a country really. So they came up with some scheme, I forget, I think it's called Udayan or something, there's some scheme they came up with. Because they don't control the state electricity board, the state government controls it. The central government has no control. So what the central government said is, हम ऐसे करेंगे, इनको chocolate देंगे. Okay, and chocolate के लालच में जो हमको करवाना है वो हम करवा देंगे. So they focused on interest. Okay, so what the government did is they said, look, you have huge amount of debt because you are selling electricity lower price than you're buying it at. So you have huge amount of debt, you're not able to service the debt, a lot of problems are there. I will take all the debt. You are at zero. Isn't that great? Yes, yes, wonderful. Take the debt. Okay? But now you make this change. Basically what they said is, so one of the issues that happens in state electricity boards is the debt is not sitting in the state government debt. So state government has a lot of restrictions on how much they can spend because they have to borrow the money and also. So what they said is if you borrow any money, it has to be borrowed by the state. It cannot be borrowed by the company. And so they put all the expense of electricity subsidy on the state government. And the state government does not want all this extra expense. They don't want the extra expense. So we still don't know whether the chocolate will work or not. Clearly, Pune is still not having power for 3 days. So far the chocolate has not had full impact. But we have to wait and watch. So they're trying to come up with some, but you have to, when you, not just your parents, when you have disagreements you will have disagreements with all kinds of people. You are a few people in the same room, you will disagree with many things. And if you think the idiot doesn't understand reason, well, he or she will not understand reason. They will understand interest, they will not understand reason. Next question.
Myself, Rupsarani Das from JNV Cuttack, Odisha. My question for you is, if you were the Prime Minister of our country, then being a renowned personality in the field of business, what would have been your marketing strategies to burst out Indian market at a par level?
Okay, very good. Please have a seat. I already told you what will happen to me going through the Ganna machine. Okay, so I'm never going to try to go there because it will not work. So Winston Churchill used to say, democracy is the worst system except for all the others. Okay? A place like Singapore has done really well. A place like Dubai has done really well. A place like Saudi Arabia has done really well. These are not democracies, not the way we understand democracy. So the best way to develop a country is if you get a benevolent dictator. That is the best way. The problem is that when you get a benevolent dictator, they may turn into a ruthless dictator. So instead of being a good dictator, they may become a bad dictator. But like, for example, there's a country in Latin America called Chile. Have you heard of the country called Chile? Yes. Do you know where it is? Chile is in South America on the southernmost western coast, thin, small country. On the other side is Argentina and this side is Chile. So Chile, many decades ago, it went through a military coup. And a military general became the head of the country, Augustin Pinochet. He became the ruler. Now, he was later convicted of a lot of war crimes and he was put into prison. But what Pinochet did was, he had absolute power. And what he did was, he called a bunch of economists from University of Chicago who completely understood Adam Smith. So he got these economists from Chicago to Chile, and he told them, I have full power. You tell me what change to make. What a beautiful thing, right? And they said exactly what I said. Free market capitalism, we're not going to protect the UP sugarcane growers, we're not going to do this and that. Open the economy up, bring whatever in, bring whatever out, everything. Chile today has 5 or 6 times the per capita income of all its neighbors. The people in Chile have the highest standard of living of any country in that whole continent. And before Pinochet came, they were just like the other countries. They went from zero to hero. So he made them zero to hero. They put him in prison. Why did they put him in prison? Because he did a simple thing. They say, Posco ka protest ho raha hai. He has no patience for all that. Sabko prison mein daal do. No process of court or anything. Just put them behind bars. Or if someone is giving a lot of trouble, just shoot him. Okay, so the country grew, became a leader, a lot of economic development, and in the end, the court said, you are a villain. Okay, so you can decide whether he's a hero or a villain. Probably a mix of both. But the thing is, if he didn't take that approach, he wouldn't get to where he needs to get to. Because how are you going to fix the state electricity board? You can try giving chocolate. Or you can show a firing squad. One or the other. Firing squad may work. Right? If you tell the person running state electricity board कि कल मैं तुम्हारे को firing squad में डाल रहा हूँ, तुम rate change करो. 5 minutes the rate will change. Right? Maybe in 1 minute it will change. But that's not how things work in a democracy. So anyway, we're not going into politics. Next question.
Suprabhat sir, myself Chandan Kumar, non-JNV from बेगूसराय बिहार. सभी लोग सफलता के लिए अपने जीवन में अपने स्तर पर हर संभव प्रयास करते हैं, लेकिन बहुत कम लोग होते हैं जो उस मुकाम पर पहुंच पाते हैं जहां आप हैं. मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि आप इस सफलता के लिए क्या यूनिक थिंकिंग फॉलो करते हैं जो आपको औरों से अलग करती है?
So, one of the first important things is we have to follow the Gita. You know, we talked about Buddha, and we talked about Ben Franklin, and we talked about Adam Smith. Now we got to go to the Gita. Okay? So, at the essence of the Gita is the fact that the Gita says we should be a Karam Yogi. Focus on the effort and the mission. Do not focus on the reward. Right? So we are not, when you are working towards getting into IIT or getting into a medical school, your objective is to maximize your effort. Do the best that you are able to do. Do not focus on what will happen with that effort. Just put in the best effort, right? So we should not be focused on, so the success that comes from effort has many factors. So, you know, if we look at success, you know, so let's say here's success. So we need to put effort, but there's also luck, and then there's also capability. Right? There are multiple things going on. So you could put in the effort, you're sick on the day of the exam, you don't get to IIT. It can happen, right? Or basically, तुक्के लगा दिए वो लग गए. Right? I mean, the thing is that the world is not fair. Many aspects of the world are unfair. So, for example, let's take a person like Bill Gates. Right? So Bill Gates is extremely successful. Right? If he was born, so there's a book, maybe after you're in IIT you can look at this book. It's called Outliers, and it's by Malcolm Gladwell, where he goes into this issue of luck versus skill versus effort. So if Bill Gates was born 2 years before he was born, or if he was born 2 years after he was born, we may not have ever heard of him. Okay, so he happened to be born at a time where everything about the timing was perfect, where the personal computer had not happened, and everything just happened in exactly that time frame. If he was 2 years older, all the things that he needed to succeed would not have happened. And if he was two years younger also, and the other thing that happened with him was, from the age of 11 to age of 18, Bill Gates got a lot of practice in computer programming in that 7 or 8 year period. He got that practice because his school, he was going to a private school, they had invested in a computer, connected to a mainframe computer. They had access to a computer. At that time, when he was 11 years old, maybe out of 250,000 schools in the US, there would have been 4 schools with computers. His was one of those 4 schools. So if he's born 2 years before or born 2 years after, he doesn't make it. If his school doesn't have a computer, he doesn't make it. There are many, many things that happened one after the other for Bill Gates that all pulled together and made it. Now, what would have happened with Bill Gates is that even if he came 2 years before, 2 years after, he would have still been very successful. But we would probably not have heard of him. There are lots and lots of successful people we've never heard of. So success is something that is dependent on a lot of factors. Let's say I started Gandhigiri. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Well, probably part of the reason was we gave up too early, my guess is. But there are a lot of reasons why it didn't work. And maybe today, if someone tries it, it may work because now everyone has a smartphone. You can do all these things. You can do a number of things which were not possible a few years back. So we cannot. I don't think you can always say. So there's a big luck factor. It's just the way life is. Life is not fair. There are people who are not that smart, don't work that hard. They still get a lot of success. There are other people who work very hard, put a lot of effort. They don't get anywhere. It's just the way the world is. Next question.
Good morning, sir. I am Sahil from JNV Gondia, Maharashtra. I want to ask, sir, that in your life you have to face many negativities, which includes social comments about the works on which, about the things on which you works. So I want to ask how is to handle such a situations.
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah, so we will always face negative comments from all kinds of people. We could even face negative comments from our parents, as we heard earlier. So there's a Hindi song, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, छोड़ो बेकार की बातें कहीं बीत न जाए रहना. That is the approach to the negative people. So people are going to talk. We can't stop them from talking. We do have control, just like Buddha says, we do have control of what reaction we have when people talk about us. We have control over that. And so if we let ourselves get negatively affected, then they have succeeded. And sometimes you can actually learn from negative comments. So many times people are pointing out things that may be valid. We can listen to those and maybe try to improve. But if someone is just purely jealous or malicious or whatever, then we can ignore that. And we have to be good at ignoring that. So that's what we have to do. Next question.
Good morning, sir. I am Indrani Haldar from JNB Murshidabad, West Bengal. My question is, sir, you have everything that a person wishes. Beautiful family, honor, respect, wealth. Sir, do you have any of your dream which is still not fulfilled? And which you think, if it would have been your life would have been more happier?
Okay, that's a good question.
Thank you,
well,
sir.
So there's a poet, Asadullah Khan Ghalib, also known as Mirza Ghalib. Some of you might have heard of him, maybe more than Adam Smith. So उनका एक गज़ल है ना, हज़ारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी के हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले. So basically the problems with humans is that if you go down the path of desires, there is no end to that path, right? So people always think that once I get the Mercedes, that's it. Or once I get the big house, that's it. But the thing is that everything that you need to be happy, every single thing that you need to be happy is inside you. There is nothing that can make you happy that is outside you. So basically, the pursuit of happiness with externalities is kind of a stupid pursuit. The interesting thing about it is all humans pursue external things to make themselves happy. So you get pretty far along if you focus on the inside rather than the outside. And so we have to make sure that we are happy in whatever circumstance we are in. We cannot say if X happens or if I get Y, then I will be happy. You cannot say once I get to IIT, I'll be happy. There are plenty of people who didn't even finish high school who are very successful. There are plenty of people who couldn't get into IIT who are very successful. Abhi jaise, I don't know whether we talked about it last time, but what IIT did Satya Nadella go to? Pardon? Raise your hand. Let's wait for the mic. Where's the mic?
मणिपाल यूनिवर्सिटी।
तो आईआईटी क्यों नहीं गए वो?
क्योंकि उनको सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ था।
सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ तो माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने सीईओ क्यों बना दिया?
सिर्फ आईआईटी थोड़ी है जो सब कुछ देता है या सब, वो तो उनके अंदर था।
बट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज देयर आर पीपल हु टुक द एग्जाम दैट ईयर who are smarter than him. They got in. They're all working for Satya.
Yes.
How is the smarter person working for the stupid person?
सर उनके पास तो सर अंदर से जो टैलेंट था और जो आईआईटी गए सिर्फ ऐसा थोड़ी हो सकता है कि मतलब उनके पास होगा कि मतलब ज़्यादा मेहनत किए होंगे, ज़्यादा क्वेश्चन किए होंगे।
लेकिन गूगल, प्लीज टेक योर माइक। Only time I can tell her to do something.
एग्जाम के दिन सत्या नडेला बीमार था।
Oh, okay, that's right. Anyway, Satya is a good friend of mine. I'll make sure I tell him that. All right, please have a seat. Yeah, so basically the bottom line is, you may think I didn't get to medical school, life is over. I didn't get to IIT, life is over. I'm getting some stupid field, life is over, or some stupid campus, life is not over. अभी मैं कौन से IIT गया था? I'll tell you what IIT I went to. I went to IIT. It's called the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. I went there for my master's. I never finished. कोई डिग्री नहीं मिली because business शुरू हो गया. वो सी टाउन था ना, बार्बर शॉप खोलनी थी उधर. तो वो बार्बर शॉप खोलने के बीच में मैंने बोला डिग्री छोड़ देते हैं. अभी तो कोई पूछता भी नहीं है क्यों छोड़ी डिग्री, क्या डिग्री, कुछ नहीं. No one asks anything. Nobody cares. I don't even know the last time someone asked me what my marks were on some test. So all the things that matter to you a lot today actually are completely meaningless. The marks don't matter, the degree doesn't matter, many things don't matter. But what does matter is if you have the right kind of frameworks and temperament and put the effort in, that will probably help you a lot. Next question.
Good morning, sir. I'm Anjali Arlod from JNV Adilabad, Telangana State. Sir, you have said that you are leaving this earth on 22nd July 2044. Sir, I want to know from you is that, don't you want to postpone that day?
पहले तो मैं ज़रा करेक्शन दे देता हूँ, आपने डेट थोड़ा रॉन्ग दिया है. बिकॉज अगर रॉन्ग डेट दिया है तो आप रॉन्ग डेट पे फ्यूनरल पे आओगे. That will not be good. The date of departure is June 11, 2044. How much time is left? How much time is left? 25 and a half years? Okay. So please have a seat. So please make sure you note the date. 25 and a half years, I think it's a slightly less than that. It's 5.5 months approximately. It's not 6 months. Little less, sorry. But if I get some dates beyond that, very good. That'll be great. But if they are not there, that's also fine. there are plenty of people who don't even get 2 years. And there are people who get 100 years. So again, this is another piece of life which is not fair or unfair. It's just the way it is. And so, yeah, we cannot focus on things like, so what happens is that every year I go to God Google and I say, God Google, how many years I have left? Okay. And every year what happens is that if I'm still alive, God Google pushes the date out. Okay, why does God Google push the date out? Because what happens is, today in the United States at birth, let's say a man has a, let's say life expectancy, let's say 76 years, for example, at birth. If the person is 10 years old, the life expectancy might be 77. Because you've taken out the first 10 years. And if it's 30 years old, it may be 80. And if it's 60 years old, it may be 83, for example, right? And if it's 80, maybe it's 88, for example. So every year that I make it, God Google says, you have some more time. But I don't use that in my calculation. Thoda buffer stock rakhna chahiye na. Some margin of safety. So I don't use that. But that's there. So we take one last question. Yeah, please.
So myself, Gurjot Singh, JNV Una, Himachal Pradesh. Sir, I want to ask that आप अपने बाद दक्षिणा फाउंडेशन की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी किसे देना चाहेंगे? उस टाइम इस दक्षिणा का एंड होगा या फिर ये फिर भी कंटिन्यू रहेगी?
What is your name again?
Gurjot Singh.
Gurjot, can we give it to you?
मैं जानता था आप ये मेरे से क्वेश्चन पूछोगे.
Go ahead.
अगर मेरे में वो गुण हुआ, then I will.
Yeah, so that's very good. We hope so. So bottom line is that Dakshana, please have a seat. Dakshana is of the alums, for the alums, by the alums. Did someone else say this before? Yes. Who's the guy who said of the people, for the people, by the people? Abraham Lincoln. So thoda topa maar diya na. We cannot speak as elegantly as Lincoln. No, so bottom line is, somebody asked me the question the other day, which I found interesting, is that I think this caller was saying that when I'm 50 or 60 years old, I want to work in Dakshana. Will Dakshana be around for me to work in Dakshana at the age of 50 or 60? So I calculated that by the time he's 50 years old, I will already be gone. I think he will turn 50 in about 32 years, and I'm leaving in 25 and a half years. So I won't be, and if you look at 60, I would have been gone for 15 years. So what I told him is that, what is Dakshana? At the core, Dakshana is just an idea. It is not this campus, and it is not anything physical. It is an idea. So even if you take an approach which says that for whatever reason, Dakshana does not exist, for example, can it be resurrected? Can it be resurrected? Yeah, 3 alums can get together and restart it. Because what is there to restart it? Sab funde to clear hai na aapko. You just have to put some pieces together. And so the good thing about Dakshana is it is an idea, and I hope it lives on, and I hope it's gone from strength to strength by that time. But even if it doesn't, we have so many thousands of alums who I think would have an interest in resurrecting it if it didn't exist. So I think we'll be okay. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Yes. Do you have a question? Okay, quickly, let's get one last question in by special request.
Myself, Sharan Sajan from JNU Murana, Madhya Pradesh. My question is that what was the incident in your life that inspired you to become a successful person in your life?
Well, so please have a seat. So I think the thing is that I didn't really aspire to become successful or any of these things. I think I just wanted to try to put one foot in front of the other. And in fact, when I was your age or maybe even a little bit older, my college roommate is here. I think he was here. He got bored. He left. But anyway, there's Ajay, my college roommate who's now a Dakshana board member. I think my objectives at that time when I was finishing college was just get a job, try not to get fired, and try to do the best job you can. And pretty much I think the same thing like we talked about before. We focus on the effort. We don't focus on the success. I think as you go through your journey in life, there are 100 different ways to become successful. Probably one of the most important ways you can be a success is by being a great parent, because you propagate to the next generation, which is important. So there are many definitions of success, and I would say don't focus on any of them. Just try to be the best version of yourself and do the best job you can. And the rest we can just leave to the gods to figure out what happens. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And something tells me I might see you again later today. So thank you.